हरि ओम। शन्नो मित्रस्य वरुणः शन्नो भवत्पर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Opportunity we have created to open up and re-establish a link in the planetary synthesis between my group in India and your group here in Geneva. It is already established and it has been working for some years through my brother Rodolphe, because it was an understanding between us both. We made this link and we started working on the inner planes of consciousness, and it took this shape today. I am very happy. But in India now the co-workers are in families, including the husband, wife and children, working for the same causes. As many as 4,000 families working for the same cause in India under the name Divine Teacher Trust. But names are only for convenience to signify a group. They should not indicate more than that. Now we form this objective link of the already existing subjective channel. We begin to speak something by way of introduction to the science of yoga propounded by Patanjali in the Bhagavad Gita. First of all, the science presupposes the need and the utility of the individual effort to lift oneself up into the real being of the real self from the activity of the not self, that is the lower being of the human existence. It is stated that everything is natural. The coming of man on this earth is also natural. It's a process that is pre-programmed and pre-planned, and a part of the planetary work of this earth. And the earth has produced its own kingdoms. From some part of the work of the Deva kingdom, the mineral kingdom was created at first, and then the plant and the animal and the human kingdom. And again, the human being is expected to join hands with the same Deva kingdom to do the work as the Devas are doing. For that purpose, the human being is being trained by the devas of this planet Earth. Though everything is natural, there is a period of crisis in the human evolution, as we know already from the teachings of the masters. When once there is the origin of the individual mind, it has its own activity which is individual, and this individual activity is bound to be a bit different from the total activity of the nature, and as a result there is a reactive nature on the lower planes of consciousness, and this reactive nature is to be neutralized and sublimated into the active nature of the human existence. An attempt is to be made, and it is necessary by anyone. Until the attempt is made, the human being lives on the individual plane, trying to find how he is different from others. And when once the attempt is made, it is the beginning to sublimate his own reactive activity of the lower nature and make it absorbed into the original existence, so that he exists with the same mechanism, that is the body, mind and senses. Once again the values rearrange and working for the identification, leaving off the identity. It is from the stage of trying to understand how he is different and distinguished from others, the individual begins to understand how he is one with others. So this transformation is bound to take in every one of us someday or other, and it awaits. In fact, it is one of the sure predictions and prophecies of every individual. And before that, the individual attempt is to be made, and before that there should be an inclination, an inducement to make that individual decision, and this inducement also is natural, and when the time of maturity comes, everyone is drawn towards the same attempt of lifting up one's lower self existence into the higher self. So here, when the desire to lift himself up is there is the need of the science which we call the yoga practice. And even after having the idea of getting himself harmonized, we have the long process of trial and error methods. In our astral plane, individual astral activity, we do many good attempts to lift ourselves up in the religious levels, in the political levels, in the levels of the sociology, psychology, politics, etc. But every time, the trouble is, we try to keep the identity of our activity different from that of others. Then it comes to an end, and it ends in a failure, and it gives an opportunity to select something better. Again we try to select some better, a new guru or a new mantra, a new meditation, a new procedure, or a new book, a new scripture, or a new conversion into another religion found from the other. Like that we try from the various methods, shift from one method to the other method, because we are not satisfied with what we are doing, because the needful is not catered. Is my accent you are able to follow my accent or able, because it is a bit different from yours. Is it enough or shall I try to be slow? Okay. Then every step gives some development or other, but the development is on the individual plane and the personality level. At best, from the individuality level, we come to the personality level. And the best way of commercializing the things at hand can be understood, but not more than that. If we practice virtues, we practice them to commercialize. That is, to behave as a good man among you and to live smoothly and to have some good name and to utilize it. Like that, even the virtues are used for a market purpose. Up to that, we can do it, generally. If we practice good habits, we practice them to know ourselves better from others, better than others, or to be noticed as someone better than others, or to be known by people, etc. The commercial commodity at first may be power, and then maybe money, and then afterwards the more costly thing may be name, fame or importance. Like this, there are steps in our commercial play with our virtues and spiritual practice until our attempt to lift ourselves is made. And once we get at the right path, which is only one. There are no two right paths, there is only one path. And the path is known by many thousands of names, definitely by people who live in many places, because their languages are different, their expressions are different. But when many people from many places meet, they have the difficulty of having different terms used for the same values sometimes. So they have to come to a closer understanding of equating the terms so that the experience is equated and identified. After passing all these difficulties, we will come to, it is very necessary for us to come to a text, a small little textbook which is of a universal value, and by knowing the terminology of that book, we will be able to have a common communion of the same subject among us. Fortunately, we have two books like that. It is the PATANJALI and the Bhagavad Gita. And luckily, the two books use the same technical terms, not too different, the same terminology. For example, yoga, chitta, prana, all these terms are used. Similar terminology are used in both the textbooks. The only difference is the book of Patanjali gives us the practical instructions to practice the yoga and attain perfection in the training. In the Bhagavad Gita, apart from this, something more is given. That is, after practicing yoga, after attaining the perfection in yoga, after the lower self is absorbed in the higher self, it is our duty to externalize the higher self into the lower vehicles and mechanisms and live a life of the higher life. This, our life should be an expression, an utterance, an actualization of the soul. That is the other half which is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The first half is given in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. This is the connection between the two books, Patanjali and Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is Patanjali and something more. But Patanjali gives us a more clear and more expanded and more practical procedure because it is exclusively a textbook on yoga practice. Bhagavad Gita is sometimes concise about the concepts given in Patanjali. This is about the two textbooks. Now we make an introduction of the subject itself. Yoga. The first sutra of Patanjali is very rarely understood properly. It is a book of instructions, Anushasana, that is instructions, but many people translate it as discourses. It's not discourse, but it is instruction. Only the practical side of it is given in Patanjali, how to do it. He has not given what happens when we do this. That's the difference. So it's not a discourse, but it is a book of instructions. That's the reason why you do not find the Kundalini in that book. And the 6 chakras in Patanjali Yoga Sutras or Bhagavad Gita, you don't find the names or explanation of Kundalini and the 6 chakras and other many things. Because Kundalini is also a symbolic name given to a particular existence, entity, a consciousness with many energy centers and many layers of awakening. So, the term Kundalini does not indicate anything that is existing physically in us, just as we use the word intelligence. If you take a radio photograph of the brain, you don't find anything intelligence there. See, we use the word will. We say that she is having much willpower. If we take an examination medically, we can't find something like will as separate from you. We say electricity. We don't find electricity through any of the electrical engineering mechanism. We know only the manifestations of electricity and the arrangement of the apparatus, which is called the electrical generator. We have a procedure to assemble the generator and to make the current flow, and we have methods to use the current for lighting, telephone, etc. We have the procedure and the manifestation through which we can know electricity. Except that you can't say this is electricity. Similarly, you can't say this is Kundalini. That's the reason why the names Kundalini and the chakras are not mentioned at all in Patanjali and Bhagavad Gita. It is only for us to know what to do, how to proceed, how to meditate. That is what is given in Patanjali. So he says it's a book of instructions and not a book of disposition, exposition or anything like that. Conscious contact with the soul is the main aim of the process and the procedure given in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And it is said, some people say that everything is predestined, and what is the use of our making an attempt? Because when it is time for us to make an attempt, we will do it. There is also that argument with some people. See, when everything is natural, the attempt is also natural. So why should we make a particular attempt? What's the use? When it's not time, if we can make an attempt, there's no use. It's an idea of fatalism. In the yoga philosophy, this question is also properly analyzed like this. There is always a need to make an attempt. An attempt means a beginning, which is the beginning of the rearrangement of all the directions of energy, and all the psychological intelligences will be rearranged. That is the beginning. So when we begin, we want to do this. I want to have a better life. I want to have a better understanding. a better living and a better relationship. So, what should I do for this? I want to have like this. Such a question and such a decision should be made. And here, a cogency of all the factors in you will take place by making an attempt. So, it is the beginning to make an attempt, and before the contact, the psychic activity is understood as the living being. Before we have a contact with our higher activity and our higher being, our psychic activity is normally understood as our whole, total. That is our mind and mental activity. Mind receiving some ideas and thoughts, trying to put them in practice, knowing some people and understanding some people as our people and some people as foreigners, and understanding some people as our friends, some people as our enemies, some like us, some dislike us. Like this we are understanding before the contact is made, and we do not realize that all this is only our understanding and it is not the objective truth. If I see that somebody is an enemy to me, it is my understanding of the person and not the person itself. We are not conscious of it unless we make in yoga contact with the higher ourselves. If we judge people, if I say she is good and she is bad, that is my image of yourself and my image of yourself and not the person existing there. We see the whole world according to our impression, not according to what it exists there. And this should be changed, and an inversion should occur before the contact with the higher self is made. This is not possible because we are always galvanized by the impressions which are the reflections or images. We are amidst the many images. Imagine your surface skin is made up of a big mirror. Then whenever there is a light in the room, you will find light in you. Whenever a person comes there, you will find the person here. Like that we are living before the yoga contact. Because all the mental activity we experience is only a reflected activity and not our real activity at all. Now, first of all, we should have a pause, a rest and a repose of the mind from this reflected activity. Then the mind will be able to try to compose itself into a place where there is real activity, and then understand that it has an activity which is its own, apart from the activity in which it is being spent as reflection. So this is the beginning of the yoga practice. For this, we should find a specific process and procedure. And this lower self, which is non-self, it includes the mind and the senses in the activity. In fact, he believes in fate sometimes, and sometimes he disbelieves. That is, he is a skeptic during some lives, or some years, or some decades, sometimes during a whole span of life. And sometimes he is faithful. He has only two alternatives. But sometimes he believes that everything is false nonsense. It is true only that we should eat when we are hungry. We should sleep when we are asleep. And when we work, we should work for our food and dress and housing, because we have to eat when we are hungry and we have to keep warm when it is cheap. accept these things, the other things are not in our purview unless we know ourselves a little bit. So all our objective activity, vocational activity and the professional activity are bound to be around the basic needs of the physical body. That is the food, the drink, the sleep, the rest and the sex. And the activity is around these four things. So just as the thumb is useful to all the other four fingers in our daily work, suppose you begin to work with the four fingers, you cannot do it. Each of the fingers are helped by the thumb. Only by the thumb the other fingers are useful to themselves and to us. Similarly, we have the activity of the day, that is when we are awakened, utilized to the four aspects. That is the aspect of food, drink, the aspect of housing, the aspect of sleep, the aspect of sex. And the awakening, the whole thing is spent to provide for these four activities. This is the sum total of all the thousands and thousands of vocations and professions, businesses in the world. If you work as a businessman, if you work as a clerk in the office, a manager, a secretary, whatever it may be, the object is to fulfill these four. So there is no other meaning except these four in the whole life itself before we make a contact with the yoga plane. Now, when we are asked to think something about our life, we can think only in the four terms. We think sometimes that there is nothing more than these four things in life. If we can provide for these four things, that is what is called skepticism or atheism, etc. Because we know some people say it as skeptics. If you say there is some scientific facts, you say, what is the utility of it? If you say that it gives you heat in your room, he says, accepts the science. Otherwise, no. So, if anything has an application to one of these four activities, then he accepts. We call him a skeptic. I think you know the word skeptic. Then, after some time, he is vexed with these things. He thinks that everything is faithful. That is, something is written about us somewhere by someone who is not known to us, and we can name him God or devil, because he is not known. When he is not known, if we are too much afraid of him, we call him devil. But if we expect some benevolence, we call him God. And we try to believe in him, but only to think that we have to wait for the day, because everything is predestined and written there for us. There's nothing for us to do, nothing to attempt. This is quite natural, because the life we understand is only very little, only including these four parts. And the data and the instruments we have are very scanty. That is the mind and the five senses and the body. The body is only a wooden cabinet for the mind and the five senses. It has some machines, some mechanism to feed food and water inside, to excrete some things, just like our house and the water arrangement, the tap arrangement, the bathroom, the toilet, etc. We have all the arrangements in this. So, but for that, we have nothing. The real instruments we have with us are the mind and the five senses. We are able to see outside, we are able to see inside. When we see inside, we have only 4 things, I told you. When we see outside, we have many things. This is the data with which we are sent to the Garden of Eden. It is this here. Children of God in the Garden of Eden. We are going in the garden. We don't know where is the garden. We don't know how far it is. We don't know what to do. So we are living. Now, faithful, we are conditioned and we begin to think. But only in these 4 times. Then we begin to act according to our thinking. The actions are not based on any logic except the logic of these 4 things, 4 items. So we are bound to do certain things. And whenever we receive some impressions from the environment, they are bound to get their image on the mind. And the mind is like plaster. The impression received remains there, and then another impression is received. It is also received thousands and thousands of impressions with which the whole plate of mind is blurred. The same photographic plate is exposed again and again, thousands and thousands of times. So we have pictures too much blurred. With those pictures, we are conditioned. Every picture gives us an idea, a spur to do something. Again we do something. By doing something, we get a rearrangement of the things around us. Again we get a new picture. Again, so a thought drives us to an act. The act drives us to a result, a consequence. The result again conditions us to a thought. This is a chain action of 3 factors. This is what is called self-conditioning or karma conditioning. And unless this is broken, there is no possibility for us to know what our existence is. We are like the chick in an egg. Unless the shell is broken, the chick has no idea of what the world is. Before that, its world is the egg. Like this, they have. So, it is. If we base on this environment and begin to act, it is our change. It's not constant. When I meet you, I have you as my environment. When I meet Radha, I have him as my environment. Always it is changing. So, I have no program. My program is always changing. We can't call it a program. It is compared with a person sitting in a chariot with 5 horses, and the horses are reduced by some fine green grass outside. They are driving the chariot, and the chariot is moving, but you cannot call it a journey. When the chariot is drawn by the external impulsions, there is no journey, there is only a locomotion. So our whole of our activity is locomotion. That is the first initiation is given in the Bhagavad Gita. That is, the person sits in a chariot. The chariot has 5 horses, but he wants a driver. So now we want a driver. So all the Bhagavad Gita is an initiation given by the driver to the person in the chariot. This is the simple picture given for Bhagavad Gita. And the environment is ever changing. with the reflections of the environment we have seen. Hence, we can understand, because it is ever changing, it can be changed once again. So it is not fateful. Exactly for the same reason, we have an opportunity to make a new change, to make an attempt to have a contact with the higher self. So fatalism has no place. Because it is already ever changing, there is an opportunity to change any time. When we ourselves begin to make a change, we can make a change for the better. It is a direct proof that fatalism is not true. And the need to have a change is always there. And a conscious contact is to be made. So a scientific process is needed. And the scientific process is yoga. And the contact is to begin yoga practice. And when the mind and the senses are rearranged, the activity is transformed into meaningful and higher activity. At first, we are having an activity which is only a reaction to the environment. Since that time, when we change, it is a stoppage and a suspension of all the reactive activity, and the real activity begins. So, the first step is, yoga is the chitta-vritti nirodha. That is, suspend the reactive activity of the mind and the senses. That is the definition of the yoga practice. The word yoga is understood as the realization of the oneness of all the parts of man. When we know the plurality, we will know the oneness. If we count 5 fingers, we can know it is only one hand. If we have 2 hands, we can know only one person. Like that, if we are 2 persons, we know only one person in whom we are living, 2 bodies are living. That is group work. When we synthesize ourselves, all the parts of our body and mind and senses into the one man in us, then 2 persons can be synthesized by understanding that 2 bodies are living in the one man. That is called the soul. So when we live in soul consciousness after the training of yoga, we live in a group. That is, we do not live in our bodies, but the various bodies begin to live in one person. That is what is called the group work, in group consciousness, in synthesis. That's why the word yoga indicates, in the first stages, an attempt to make a union with the higher self. In the second steps, making a union. In the third steps, unity. Fourth step, oneness. Then it is synthesis. What is the difference between unity and oneness? If you collect a group of petals together and tie them together with a string, the petals of a flower, it is unity. But if you take a flower without plucking it from the tree and look at it, all the petals are kept at the center. If you make it like that, it is unity. If you find it like that, it is synthesis. You see? Because you will realize that they already exist as one before you do it. Unless you spoil it, it is one. Similarly, first we know us, everyone, different from each other. But Afterwards, we try to make a unity through many methods, the political methods, the social methods, the educational methods, etc. And we partially become successful and then fail and then come to the yoga process. Then we understand that we are already in oneness. It's a realization and not a making, a new making. This is what is called yoga. The word yoga indicates the synthesis or the realization of the already existing oneness. That is exactly the term yoga means. So this rearrangement causes absorption of the psychological unit of consciousness into the self. You have your psychological unit, that is your mind and your senses. This is the not self, but it is an objective reflection. But generally we are living in it. We think that it is our life. We now begin to make an absorption of this into the real self. Before we make an externalization of the real self, we first make an absorption of the non-self into ourselves. It is a withdrawal first. So when the instruments are thrown haphazard on the table, first you make a collection of them before you arrange them properly. Like that, we have to make a withdrawal first. This beginning of the yoga practice causes absorption of the psychological unit of consciousness, which is existing in non-self, to absorb into itself. Life experience belongs to the real self, then only. Previously, life experience belongs to mind and senses and reaction. We call the reaction as life. Now, after this, we call the action as life, not reaction. When you are there, I am reacting to you. I can't say this is my activity, this is my reaction to you. But since then, we will come to the real action. That's the difference. And it is only the reflection of the environment. What we now call activity or life is only a reflection. Then, now let us understand something about mind. There is the brain, there is the mind. The brain is mind is working through the brain cells. The brain cells are physical, but they form the seat of the mind working. And the mind is an instrument which is to focus the soul to externalize itself through the brain cells into the activity of the body. That is how it is intended for. There is the soul, which is ourselves. We have to work through this body. We have the mind, which is like a lens, which makes our soul light work through the body. But we have to focus first of all. But in the meanwhile, what is happening is there is a partial reflection going on in the mind. When at night you have a light here, you look that side, you will find only the light and the reflection of the room, not the things outside. Like that, the mind has a peculiar reflecting surface, which is reflecting only the environment and not the real contents in us, the real self in us. It is an instrument intended for the real self to externalize through the brain cells, through the body, our speech, our thoughts and our actions. But when the instrument is made and given by nature into the world, The activity started a reflecting activity.